Where is your family? Where are they based? What has happened to them in the last couple of years? A new phenomenon has started with families within this country called Nigeria being broken up. Aged parents almost sure of the fact that their children will not be around when they depart this earth. It is called emigration. You know it as Japa. Welcome to the agenda. My name is Abiodun Famujura, and we will be looking at the troubling phenomenon of emigration in this episode. I am joined by two young men who are physically in the studio with me, physically in Nigeria, but I do not know where they are mentally. I will ask them in the course of this conversation. Make welcome, Adeleke, Fasakin. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
And to my right, which is your left, Akinfolarin, Akintayo, a public servant. Welcome to the agenda.
Thank you for having me.
It is your first time being here. So let's talk about the immigration phenomenon. We don't want to emphasize or amplify the word Japa. The word Japa means to escape from a very disturbing situation or scenario. What is happening with the generation, Akinfolarin? Whereas many people are leaving this country in droves. What is responsible for this situation?
There are a couple of, thank you for the question. There are a couple of factors, making people go for greener pasture, moving in droves to Western countries for a better living. So factors such as insecurity. Nobody wants to lose their life. Everybody wants a secure place, at least. Even the people that, they are perceived successful in Nigeria, they want a better living. They want somewhere that they can rest their head and without having issues of security. So they are going for greener pastures where they can be better secured. And also another factor is high, rate of unemployment. A lot of people are unemployed. The ones that have something doing, they are not gainfully employed. So many people are going in millions, thousands, are going to other countries to get a better living.
Akinfolarin, before I go to Mr. Fasakin, you spoke about unemployment. The minimum cost for relocation is about 80 million naira. How does a young family that is unemployed or not gainfully employed able to afford 80 million naira to leave the country, to leave their country where they understand the uncertainty, to go to another country where there is a higher level of uncertainty?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's that's one thing I still find amazing. A lot of people sell off stuffs, borrow loans, take loans, do all sort of take loans from family members, sell their properties, sell a lot of things. And a lot of people also go through illegal means. Not everybody can afford that amount. So a lot of people do stowaway, Some
Stowaway?
Yeah. They go through some ports and, just get out, no matter how, dangerous or risky it is. So they just want to leave.
And in the process, some will lose their life.
Definitely.
Mr. Fasakin,
Thank you.
emigration, the situation we're facing in Nigeria.
Okay. Well, it's, I would like to call it a pandemic.
A pandemic?
Yes, as we speak, because I'm using the word pandemic because it's detrimental to the nation.
Detrimental to the nation?
Yes,
But
detrimental
if
to the
a
nation.
nation is making it impossible for its citizens to remain, will they not find a way to validly express themselves?
Yes, and that's why it's detrimental to the nation. It's not the fault of anyone going, or any of us if we choose to go from now. But nevertheless, it's still detrimental to the nation.
Okay.
So it's the work of the players to make sure that they find a way to mitigate this.
Who are the players you're referring to?
Those in power, those in government. We're talking about leadership, generally. Now, I would say it's a pandemic because everybody wants to live. That's in fact, an average.
Everybody.
By everybody, I'm talking of the productive unit of the nation. The people
The young generation.
Yes, young generation. And by the time you have them, that's what led to the lost decade we had in Japan, That's what they call lost decade. When you have 10 years of unproductive work or 10 years of economic decline, that's a lost decade. And it always happens in every nation when people leave en masse this way. And again, Nigerians are very brilliant. This is the part I'm bringing in. Most migration are selective. The selection criterion for most of these countries are very high. In terms of they go into a nation and they, let me use the word, they rapture the best brains. Do you understand? So they have very high selection criterion. You must pass IELTS at a level.
What you're saying is this pandemic is selectively excavating qualitative human beings from this country to other countries.
Yes. No, well, if we look at those who sold loans, those ones are at a category. Now, I'm even looking at those selected. And by the word selected, okay, for instance, a UK is saying they're looking for medical practitioners. And they're paying them. So definitely, everyone who finished from medical school,
falls within that bracket.
Nurses, doctors will go. And it's showing, you can go to hospitals, it's showing. Let's come to the tech world, developers, product managers, product designers.
We're having venture capitalists, seed funding, and they're
we thought our bank apps were fine because the load was not too much. Now, when the economy shifted into cashless, and then there were loads on the apps, we realized they were not fine because many will not work. I'm sure we have all experienced it.
And many of the tech people that were driving the process have left.
They have left. And then let's come back to academics. From school, you really don't want to do a master's here because it's not competitive. It's literally, the iteration from graduate to master's is just a little, and then 2 years of heavy thesis, which has nothing to do with practice. You just do a lot of writing, a lot of that doesn't. But people realize that when they travel, they get student loans, they get fundings. If you go to Germany, you don't pay for anything. I know people that migrated and they pay for the flights and they pay for your accommodation for the first 3 months. So after the first 3 months, you can easily afford a £600 or $600 apartment, that you can also stay till you begin to upskill and then upgrade yourself. So whichever way, and companies are very smart. We can look at FDI right now. Countries are very smart. We can look at FDI. Countries that want to plan very well don't plan 10 years. They have a 50-year, 100-year plan. You can get your FDI in the first 2-3 years and be okay with, remittances coming in. But it's only going to take 20 years of that before you realize that there's a particular age gap that you cannot find.
Are you saying, Mr. Fasakin, that
yes, sir,
the nations that are harvesting the brilliant minds from this country are intentional, are deliberate, are strategic
yes,
to the detriment of this nation?
Maybe that was not what they intended, but then they are very strategic.
If you are harvesting qualitative minds, it is for the purpose of advancing the cause of your nation. It is for the purpose of refocusing certain things that are happening in those countries. If you're taking the medical professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the dentists, and you're bringing them into your country, it means that there is a gap in your country. And you found out that Nigerians, brilliant minds, can do the work. So what happens to the country itself? How is Nigeria meant to survive this tsunami of exodus?
The gap will show, actually, because there will be a retrogression. For, like you said, the bank apps, you could see the lapses already. The tech guys handling those stuffs, they've vanished. They've gone elsewhere.
They've left, yes.
Yeah. So you would, those
Most
gaps
of
will
them
show, yes. The development, there will be a setback until we do things right in the country, until the government puts, atmosphere convenient for living, for young people to thrive and do something better with their life, get employed, gainfully employed, and set apparatus for security, improve the security. That's when we can actually
Allow me to ask
recover.
you a question, Mr. Akinfolarin. Do you assume that everyone that is relocated, emigrated to another country, is having the best of time in those countries?
No, I don't agree with that. No,
Do
they are
you?
not.
Okay, so would you agree with me that some of the persons, or a safe percentage of those who have relocated, are actually struggling?
Yes, the situation in Nigeria is that, some of the things that are prayer points are not, a problem there. Things like basic amenities. Every responsibility of every government first is to fix security. If I don't have to worry about, take for example, some young guy in Taraba or Zamfara, that does not know where the risk will come, where there will be problem next, maybe he might get, killed or something. would prefer to live somewhere. At least I don't have to bother my head about security. At least, okay, to remain, okay, getting, employed, getting food, getting other things. But first, security is very basic. Security is very, very important. Everyone is when you are alive that you can aspire for
function.
more. Yes. So I think that's one of the reasons. In fact, what amazes me the most is the people that are perceived to be okay in Nigeria are moving.
They are the ones leaving.
Yes, they are leaving. What do they want? A young guy that has a car, a good job, but then the atmosphere is not convenient. It's not conducive.
But Mr. Akinfolarin, I want to say, I am of the opinion that for some persons who are leaving the country, there is a mindset that is making them to also leave. For some people, they are leaving not because they really need to leave. And you can rebut this. They are leaving because my friend has gone. For example, the question is, for many people, what are you still doing here? People are asking each other, a group of friends, 7, 6, they are asking the question, are you still around? So for some people, they're not leaving because they have to leave. They're not leaving because they don't have good jobs. They are leaving because there is a herd mentality syndrome. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Well,
Mr. Fasakin.
I still feel, okay, for instance, you have friends who probably did not go abroad. Probably moved to another state, another town or village. They won't tell you, you've never felt like going to join them. So what mostly happens is when these people travel and you see the quality of life they are living, I believe all consumers are rational, and they are consistent in their choices. If you prefer A to B, then you said you prefer A to B, B to A, or you're indifferent between both. So I believe they're very consistent. So you cannot see, for instance, if I'm a legal practitioner and I have a job here and I see how I work, and a friend of mine transitioned, okay, let me use the word, traveled out, and I saw the difference in a couple of times, and I'm looking at the qualifications. You see them start saying, you're wasting your time there. I still have a lot of people call me, you have suffered too much in that country, find a way. The 8% of what you know, is enough for you to be fine here. So it's only take 1 or 2, it's a good peer pressure, 1 or 2 pressure on you, and then you just get rational. Like, let me just leave. Another part is, even if we see people are doing well, there's this famous economist, Ray Dalio, if I remembered. When the economy gets to a place where things get very tight, the have-nots will start eating the haves. In the sense that you look at...
The have-nots will start eating the haves.
Yeah, so I'm a normal Adbiro area boy or something, and I just look at you, I light from one BMW. I might just get into ShopRite one day and see all of you eating. I know that I can't buy that food, even if I snatch all the phones in the market. It gets to a point where they start attacking halves. It always gets there. And Nigeria is at that tipping point because I've never seen a nation nurse 2 twin evils conveniently. The 2 twin evils are inflation and then unemployment.
At the same time.
Occurring at the same time, very high. Inflation is 18%. The average is 10. That should be. You should not even enter 2 digits. Inflation is 18, unemployment is at 3. Nigeria should be awarded for at least getting the twin evils to exist at the same time.
Are you of the opinion, Mr. Fasakin and Mr. Akinfolarin, that we cannot reverse this trend? Because, allow me to say this, once upon a time, in the early 80s, there was a massive exodus.
Yes.
A number of the people that left back then, they came back eventually. Some, when they did come back, they had lost time. They had lost relevance. They had lost a significant level of life. Those who stayed back weathered the storm and were able to produce a result. Hold that thought. When we come back, who is remaining in your family? Who is yet to go? Whose visa has been applied for? Who is pressuring you to come? The immigration challenge. Stay with us. This is still The Agenda with Abiodun Famojura. Before we went on the short break, we were talking about the subject of immigration. And now I need to ask my 2 guests in the studio about a very important factor. Capacity. Will a lizard in Nigeria become an alligator in the United States of America. If you do not have capacity to function at an optimal level in another country, will going to that country not complicate your situation or make life impossible for you? Listen, before you answer that, let me put an addendum. There are certain persons in this country that have been gaming the system. How many Nigerians are captured in the tax system, the tax regime? How many Nigerians are paying for the electricity they consume? So when you do relocate or you do emigrate, there are certain Nigerians that cannot function in developed countries. How will you respond to that? Coupled with my earlier question, the capacity question.
I quite agree with you that a lizard here will not go
Become
there
an alligator.
and become alligator. The thing is, it's always good to build capacity. If you go there without knowing what you want to go and do there, because you just want to go and have a better living, you might end up going there and wasting time, and you won't become anything. The thing is, before you go, you must first, where you are going to, have a plan, have a strategy. What am I going there to do? Or what skill do I have here? That I can make best use of instead of going there. You have to have a strategy, you have to have a plan.
How many people have emigrated with a strategy?
Not a lot.
Because I don't know if you're aware that a number of Nigerians who have emigrated are being sustained from Nigeria. That is a crisis in its own. So you left a nation of uncertainty, according to you, moved to a nation of certainty, but you could not deal with the certainty in that nation, and you had to fall back to the nation that you say was uncertain. Yes?
Well, generally, we know that a lizard in Nigeria will not become
an alligator. In the US
but then
or any other developed nation.
It's better than a lizard inside the fire. A lot of times we make it look like, we mentioned environmental determinism, and it's that the environment itself shapes how people think. The truth is, we must admit that we are not at our optimal thinking capacity, given this level of environment. For instance, if you stay in some areas in Nigeria, you probably don't sleep all night. At the slightest sound, you wake up.
Because of insecurity?
Because of insecurity. Sometimes
because of electricity challenges?
Everything. You can't even boast of sleeping all night. Mosquitoes will come in with the orchestra, heat will come in to eat, and then you're left stranded. And you can add that all night to leaving that bed by 4 a.m. to hit your work, and then coming back home by 11 p.m.
Thereby impacting on the quality of life. That
system is enough to not make you think. Let's be sincere. So when you find a place, you can't even be people are not even trying to become alligators. People are just trying to be a lizard. Do you understand? At least let me be a lizard for once, not a lizard that is under a heavy stone that can't even move. So what's happening with us is that we must be said with ourselves. And I read a very famous man, he said, somebody came to me and said he's traveling. A normal me 2 years ago would have encouraged him, said, but this time I had nothing to say. Do you understand? I had to just say, I think you should go. And that's where the reality is. We have seen people who finished school with 2.2, who didn't even pass. Wanting to travel abroad, and then I'm not sure if any of us have seen anyone who traveled abroad and didn't finish the best student in that class. I've not always. They said that they have distinction.
They break records.
They break records.
They set new records.
They always break. So that means you begin to wonder, I thought you were a dollar at school. So the environment does not even allow you to be lazy. People can evade tax in Nigeria because there's no even system to even ask for the tax. And then how do people even get to do what they do before you even tax it? There is no giving back to the people. People used to say tax and human capital development helps the tax base to increase and increase whatever comes from tax. So the people you have not equipped, you can't demand from them.
But we're demanding from them.
We're demanding, so we cannot. When people migrating get better, a lot of times they might travel without a plan or a strategy, which is true. But by the time you step into that code and you know that I have to sleep, the mindset changes. And then the little effort you put will yield. Sometimes I know someone who traveled, nothing, and then before you know it, the person does a few jobs and says, at least, thank God I get about $800 monthly, which has never happened in Nigeria. Do you understand? You won't do menial jobs to even get such kind of amounts here. People will just try to say thank you.
And that is a distinguishment and the strength of the value of currency. Mr. Akinfolarin, how do we stem stop, reduce the exodus?
Number one, the government have to get serious about
Which government? The
government
government of the Federal
Nigeria.
Republic of Nigeria.
Exactly. They have
At
to get-
all levels or at the federal
At
level?
all levels, we have to get serious with securing the country. I mean, what is government without securing the country? That's the first responsibility of government. Number one, fix the security of this country. And I don't think it's difficult. It's just putting the right things in place and, holding people responsible. Once you fail in your responsibility, you are culpable. So that's one. Then secondly, improve, maximize the potentials of the youth. Create an enabling atmosphere for youth to
What does that
thrive.
enabling atmosphere entail? It's like a cliche, like an anthem, enabling environment. We hear it a lot. It's just like when we started democracy in Nigeria, and we had the subject matter of political impasse. It was, what is the enabling environment?
Number one is access to good jobs. The government does recruitment, and you see that it's just man, no man. You have to know somebody. That's one. Then two, access to loans. Let there be development for businesses.
Loans that are accessible.
Yes.
Not the loan that asks for your great-grandfather and properties that
and
you
not
know.
high interest, so that people can get into entrepreneurial skills. People can do something with their hands. A lot of people, graduate from schools, they want to do business, but no access to no funding, and they don't have the right
But we have
skills.
institutions that are doing phenomenal things, like the Bank of Industry, helping people
How many
that
people?
have genuine business plan.
Not a lot of people have access to that. That's what is access to loans. Bank of Industry, as at the last time, you have to have a certain level of business.
There's a
and
bank
then
called the Development Bank as well.
FDB.
They don't give accessible loans. If they give, some that they give at very high interest that it kills and stifles
It kills the business before it
Yes,
even
yes.
starts.
So I think that's one of the issues. And also, there's a need to create such a sort of improvement in education. In Nigeria, there's no good quality education. Sincerely, if you go to our universities, it's more like a tug of war. You see a theater, that is meant for like 40 students. You see like over 500 students. Because one of the reasons why people go there is because of education. They go to further their education, get better skills.
But when they go for the foreign education, the students who appear to be struggling here excel over there.
Yes, that's because there's a good
How do
atmosphere.
they excel when you say that the quality of education here is not good?
The reason why they are excelling there is because, they tap into their potentials. In Nigeria, we don't do experiments, we don't do practicals, we only do theories.
Not in all cases, though.
Most cases in most Nigerian
Most
universities.
cases, okay.
You see that a lot of people, a lot of lecturers just come to the class, give handouts, say all sorts
I don't
of
think they still give handouts in the university system in Nigeria. I don't think so.
Some schools they do.
A lot of schools, not some schools. Why do you think people, go for the options of private schools?
Private universities
Yes,
or
private universities.
institutions.
Yes.
Mr. Fasakin,
Well,
what is the answer?
I think he has touched.
He spoke about security, enabling environment,
Spoke about education.
Yes.
I think I'll pick mine from education, which I will want to emphasize on postgraduate education in Nigeria.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone can relate with doing postgraduate education in Nigeria. It's almost synonymous to apprenticeship. You are only as good as you can please,
Your supervisor.
your supervisor or lecturers. It's only a few universities, or even in those universities, a few departments when you actually engage in academic work, per se. Now, that academic work in itself, I'm not even discussing on the quality. Let's just talk about, at least I did academic work. Now, it's very painful most times when you say you have I've not seen anyone from Nigeria that finished the master's now without immediately that applied abroad that got a PhD. Only very few cases. And you must have other projects to back up your master's for them to even take you in for a PhD. If you do a master's and you're applying, you are getting a master's, don't even bother. Because the assumption is that you did not learn well. So a case where you use...
The assumption is that you did not learn well.
It's very key. And the truth is you have to admit you did not learn well. Because if you look at during COVID, most of those strong economies, education is the driver of the economy. The average salary, maybe about $70,000 to $80,000 annually, where most of the tech people will fall. But a PhD holder will be going to about $150,000, $200,000 annually. So academics is respected. Such that during Corona, they didn't shut down. But the first thing we
were able to pivot.
The first thing we shut down during Corona is academics. Because truly we are not an active contribution to the economy. So there is a disconnect between our theory and practice.
And practical.
Such that people go to school. Let's be sincere with ourselves. You literally finish school in Nigeria to now start educating yourself. You get a job and realize that you don't know anything whatsoever. So
employers of labor can testify.
That is that. And let us come to the employment. It's like I said, people have, when there is unemployment rate, the labor pool is too loaded. And one of the things employers, especially those that exploit, like to see is an overcrowded labor pool. Where I can put out, I need a developer, all I want to pay is $200,000. Do you understand? In quotes, and then about 500 people have applied. Do you understand?
You bring the financial
so the labor pool is too high. And when the labor pool is plenty, it's because there's unemployment. And then if you employ one, out of 500, you have 499. So the 499 are waiting for the one to come back from work so they can snatch his phone. Because they're back into the streets. So at the end of the day, we have security problem. So we have to invest in killing poverty, reducing unemployment. And that cannot work if we do not have a good government, especially for 2023. Because the
elections are here.
Yes, the next person must be willing to save Nigeria so that people can start coming back. Because truth is, if people do not come back, we're actually in for it.
Wherever you are watching this is a most sobering conversation. The immigration conundrum is a reality. One of my guests said it's a pandemic. Many families have been separated. Some might never recover. All in the name of seeking greener pastures, a better life. We are all entitled to a better life. My appeal goes to the leaders, those who are leading in various stratas of this society. You know what to do. For many of us, or many of you, who have traveled out of this country, you see how societies are meant to be run. This is an ongoing conversation. By the time this recording and this episode is over, how many people would have left this country? You know the answer. The flights leaving this country are full. Those coming back are not as full. But I see light. I see hope. I cannot but hope that this nation will recover, because not to think of recovery is not a consideration we should hold on to. The best of us have not all gone. There are still many with us, like the gentleman to my left and my right. And I, myself, I am still here for now. Till I come your way again, connect with us on all our various social media platforms. This is The Agenda, and my name remains Abiodun Famojuro. Looking forward to our next broadcast. Have a wonderful time. Bye for now.